Hi there, I'm Sandy Allnock with your monthly Create in Color segment here on the My Favorite Things Stamps channel. And today I'm going to be using Copics with this little stamp set called Happy Together from the new release. And I wanted her to be sitting in a bed of flowers, so I stamped it with my steel blue hybrid ink, but I used a little sticky note to block off the bottom part so you can see she's sitting into something that you can't see, because that's going to make it look like she's sitting in a bed of flowers. And that's what the Copic watercolor portion of the title of this video is going to show you how to do. The coloring of her is going to be pretty straight up. You can color it any way you want, and we'll get into the Copic watercolor in a bit. But I wanted to show you a little bit of mess that I made. I decided not to refilm this because I did get a little bit of bleeding going on here as I started adding my mid-tone color. And the mid-tone color, I put a lot of color on the page, on the piece of paper, and sometimes you just get extra bleeding when you put a lot of color in there. I was trying to really blend it. I'm used to using purples for my shadows, and this color was a little bit dark, so I put a lot of the mid-tone, and then it started getting weird and textured as well. But I'm going to show you in a second how I fixed that. So here I'm trying to just lighten some of it with my light color, going over top of it to pull out some of that color. And then I'll grab my middle color again, my mid-tone color, and go over it with just some quick strokes, not belaboring it. And there is a little bit of the dark color pooled around the outside edges, but it's going to blend right into her hair. So that's going to cover that up. I often am trying different techniques because I'm trying to cover things up. So if you watch my Instagram and see all my scenes and things, you will find lots of stuff that was created because I goofed something up. And here I can just add a little bit of this darker brown in order to create some extra texture in her hair. And that covers up the fact that that dark brown in her skin took over a little more than I wanted anyway. So that's one way that you can do it, by creating some contrast elsewhere to distract from an area that blooped. I'm also creating just a few hairs, and as soon as my big hand is out of the way, you'll see I create a few extra hairs to add a little character to her. And I like to change it up a little bit so it's not always exactly as the stamp is done, but a little wispiness helps to soften things up. So I'm adding some color now to the dress. My base color is Y17, best marker color out there. Just tell you that if you don't know me, Y17 is my favorite color. And I'm going to use some orange to create some shadows. And I'm going to keep it really simple. The focus on this one is going to be the background, and you'll see why in just a few moments. I decided I wanted to add some contrast to her, so I wanted some polka dots on her dress. So I made her sleeves, well actually I'll make the other sleeve in just a moment, her sleeves, her collar, and then the polka dots with a dark gray marker. And I realized later that I had given her brown shoes to match her brown hair and thought maybe she should have black shoes. And the cool thing with Copics is just go right over top of it, and that will cover that up. I started doing a little birdie in red, and I almost got busy doing the flowers, and I thought, wait a minute, let me do the background first, because then I'll know what color is going to work with the flowers, what's going to show up, because I wanted a really watercolory looking background. These flowers, just a cascade of all different kinds of beautiful spring colors, because spring is coming, right? It's going to be there eventually. And if we have been sad at not having warm weather, then hopefully this will get you well on your way toward looking forward to spring. But I'm just slathering on colors. I'm really not being super careful with them, just scribbling them on. Do them in enough of large blocks that you have some color to work with, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. I'm using all colors with a 0 for the first digit and a very low number, a 0, a 2, or a 3 for the second number. And if you've taken my Copic Jumpstart class, you'll understand what all of that means. But I'm really picking colors that are very light and bright and highly saturated, and also light colored in terms of the light versus darkness of them. And that's going to make them work well together. Here, as I'm doing the B00, I can actually go over some of the other colors and start playing with how colors mix on top of each other, making a purple out of mixing it over top of the pinks. And I can use the pinks to mix over top of the yellows to make a peach and all that sort of thing. It's just a fun way to play with color. And right now it looks like a blobby mess, but hang tight. Just stay with me because it's going to be better. I decided I wanted a little softness at the top, so I'm going to use some B000. You can go quadruple zero if it scares you too much to try to blend into white. Just doing some light flicks over top. And then I decided to add a little bit more of the pink here and there and start making smaller dots of color because I wanted more small flowers to start to appear in this. And just layering color over top of each other. And you can go back and forth repeatedly with all of these colors if you want to. The more color you have in this step, the better the next step is going to work. And if you use darker colors, the next step will have more effect. I wanted a really soft pastel effect, and so that's where I'm going to be going with this one. But you can try it with a lot of different colors too. So scribbling in more of this pink color, and now comes the magic of the Colorless Blender. And the Colorless Blender pushes color out from itself. It doesn't actually blend anything. Think of it more as a bleach pen than a Colorless Blender blendy pen. And I'm just making dots. Your marker needs to be really juicy. So if you haven't filled it, it's really good to do before you do this, because otherwise you won't get a whole lot of that color pushing out. And you want a lot of ink in each one of these dots that you make. I'm making them all different sizes, all different irregularities. Some of them are layering over top of each other, but it's adding to the tiny detail in each one of these little dots. And I tried filming close so you could see. I was holding it with my hand. Sorry, it's not super steady. And I also couldn't focus on it since it was fuzzy. The camera wasn't focusing very well, but you can see how it's creating that sort of bokeh effect with all of those dots on it. And then after it was all done, I was able to figure out that a purple color would work great for the little flowers because they were going to show up against the color behind it. So that is all there is to that kind of a crazy background. And here is the finished card. Isn't that cute? Really, really simple in terms of the skill level. I just added a piece of ribbon on top to finish off the card and just kept that nice and straightforward and simple. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure you click the like button, share it with your friends. There's some more videos here. If you want to see some more, hit that subscribe button to get more from MFT. And I will see you guys again next month. Have a really fabulous day. Bye-bye.